What is going on, guys? Lieutenant Nutcase here, bringing you a new installment of Weapon Wednesday. This week we are looking at the definitely aggressive PP-29. So it's an absolutely banging gun. It was the meta when the game came out. It was outranging assault rifles, outclassing and outgunning them. It was a beautiful weapon. So yeah, he got hit with the nerf hammer and they increased the recoil. But it's not hard to see why this weapon is a meta rifle. Even now, it's a banging gun, and the only difference really that they did was increase the recoil on the weapon for the simple reason that it was too good at full auto when ARs could only handle semi, giving you rapid TTK at longer ranges. But with a few clever attachments you can mitigate that, and it's still an amazing gun. So let's take a look at this gun's stats and what attachments I'm going to put on it to get the best from it this week. So these stats might not actually appear to be that great, but trust me, overall the gun is amazing. So the firepower is a measly 25 points with a poor accuracy of 42 and range of 44. However, you've got to remember that, especially with the standard issue ammo, the rate of fire is fairly high, and the very manageable recoil with this, when you actually get the attachments on it, brings the gun into a class of its own. It's only got single fire and full auto modes because it would be broken if it had a burst fire. Tap fire is the way to go. Baseline zoom level is 1.25 as with all iron sights, but easily changeable with any sights you attach to the gun. This thing is definitely not a heavy hitter, but up close and personal with the right attachments, this thing is terrifying. So, no underbarrel attachments to talk about this week, which is a damn shame. This thing is great from the hip, so being able to have maybe a red dot laser would bring this gun up a notch, but can't fault it. So, looking at the barrel, we have on this build a 6KU suppressor, because it's probably the only not broken suppressor in the game, or at the time of this anyway. Got a long barrel just to reduce the recoil. Well, actually it don't reduce the recoil, but it feels like it because it lowers the fire rate and means that your bullets keep its damage going up a bit further down the field. And champion muzzle brake, and I've chosen this one because the recoil is fiercely upwards. You don't get a lot of movement left to right on this, but you definitely do get it climbing to the stars, and if you're hitting the stars, well, let's face it, this is Battlefield, it's the only time that's not really a good thing. So it gives you 3 different ways to play. If you want to have stealth on your side, the 6KU suppressor is the way to go. But when you're moving between buildings and objectives, you've got a bit more range with that large barrel. And for when you're wanting to play a bit more aggressive and keep your finger on that trigger, we have the champion muzzle brake. All of those, all together with this gun, will mean you're fairly set and will definitely help you for at least coping with these longer range engagements that you might be coming up against. So, last but certainly not least, for the attachments at least, we have the sights. Now, a lot of people are recommending the Fusion Hollow, well, red dot, and there is nothing wrong with that, but I've chosen the K8 Hollow sight simply because it's a little less intrusive. I mean, it ain't as pinpoint accurate as the Fusion Hollow because it's like an arrow instead of a red dot, but once you learn where in that reticle the bullet's going to hit, I feel it's a far less intrusive sight and you can see more of a corridor. So particularly in the CQB where you've got multiple enemies around, the trade-off for pinpoint precision to general sight, it's a no-brainer for me. We also have the Bravo 3 times. That's just to help you deal with longer range firefights. I don't use it too often because if you're to use a 3 times optic, you know, using a SMG, you're probably not using it right and you're too far at range. But obviously there are going to be some times where you have to assault a building before you can get inside it, so for those times it's pretty decent. Now, we also have the XO Smart 2 times optic. Now this thing is really cool, a bit like the UH optic, which is by far my favourite sight for a lot of assault rifles. The readouts on this gives you a bit of a gauge for how far the enemies are, and it's brilliant. This is the scope I use most of the time at range because it means it's easier to predict how much bullet drop you're going to have to put on and lead, because you know exactly how far that enemy is from you. I mean, the downside is it's a bit bulkier, takes a bit longer to bring to your shoulder, but at the end of the day, it's an SMG, it's not going to take too much longer, and particularly when you're at range, speed doesn't come into it as much as accuracy, so it's a good trade-off really. If you want the same stats but something a bit faster, feel free to go for the 1.5 times scope that does the same thing. I mean, to be fair, if this 2 times was on assault rifle classes, I'd take it in a heartbeat, but it's only for SMGs, but it's a banging scope. So yeah, it's really the sights and scopes of this that are going to set you up for those different ranges. So yeah, I think I've gone right with these. Obviously, when you're in close range though, the 2 times scope's going to give you a slight drawback because of the bulkiness of it. But again, if you're at close range, you can probably shoot from the hip. But ideally, in your fights and skirmishes that are within a room, you're best off going for the K8 Hollow. All in all though, that covers all ranges, and with the ammo types and the barrels you've got on, altogether this gun is going to slap. So yeah, feel free to try this out, see if it works for you, and let me know in the comments. So, the ammunition types are actually very limited compared to other guns. You only have 3, and frankly I only get on with the standard issue so much less recoil than the high power rounds, meaning that your gun is going to be better at range and up close, plus the high capacity just means you can hose down a full room without having to worry about the shots you miss. Obviously you might find that you're getting on with the high power rounds, and that's fine, it's your game, so give them a try. The subsonic ammunition, however, huge trade-off in pretty much every category, and not for much reward. Frankly, they're a bit pointless. So even though they're on the build, it's only because there's 3 ammo types to choose from. You know, there's no armor piercing or anything like that, so they've made it on literally because there's nothing else to put there. But yeah, the standard issue ammo, this gun rips with it. You know, you've got over 60 rounds in the magazine. It just slaps. Dead easy to take on groups and even use it as a full auto at range. It's the only way that the recoil isn't uncontrollable really. Anything past 50 meters you're going to have to tap fire or even single fire using the high power. So I strongly recommend that you use the standard issue, at least until you've learned the recoil pattern of this gun. So let's take a look at the class I've got this built into. So the secondary weapon is the G57. Definitely one of the best sidearms in the game in terms of speed. So I've got that on because most of the time it's going to be close quarters battles, and chances are you're only going to have to land one shot to finish it. Especially considering the ammo capacity of the P-29. I can't see you actually needing to use it really, but it's there. The PP-29 absolutely eats ammo, so the ammo crate as a gadget was absolutely a no-brainer. Ignore the fact, by the way, that this class says it's a medic class. It's just because the PP-29 is default within the game setting for that. For the throwable, we also have the incendiary grenades, because committing war crimes are fun. Nah, but honestly, I've got those on simply because the area denial for it just helps you cover a bit of ground. You know, you could easily use it for smoke for the same reason, but it keeps enemies unable to hit you, and maybe keeps them out of that window that they keep coming to as you're trying to approach the building. You know, this ain't exactly for fighting out in the streets, so it just helps to keep you safe and perhaps even pick up a cheeky kill or a bit of damage. But it's more relying really on the PP-29 in close quarters. This is a very aggressive gun, so someone like Sundance is definitely brilliant with it. Could also use like McKay for his flanking ability or Dozer to keep you protected as you close in as your specialist whilst running this gun. I mean, Sundance is my go-to, but depending on your playstyle, I mean, McKay's probably going to set you up for flanks a bit better, trying to get into different routes into a building than you could get with Sundance, and Dozer just means you can run at them and not give a single flying fuck. So yeah, we can't complain with this. So yeah, guys, give this class a try. Let me know how it goes for you. And yeah, I'll see you next Wednesday for Weapon Wednesday.